Welcome to the Campus Outreach Staffcast, a podcast produced by CO staff for CO staff. I am your host, John Elam, and with me is the Campus Outreach Serve Executive Director, Kent Bailey. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our conversation with Andrés Garza, Director of City to City Latin America. In part 1, Andrés brought a first-hand perspective to Campus Outreach as he partners through its local hub churches in Monterrey, Mexico. In this episode, Andrés continues to lay down the challenge of strategic partnerships, not only for Campus Outreach, but for all those who labor in God's harvest field. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Go and make disciples. Real discipleship that not only know the Bible, but know how the Bible works, how the gospel works for everything in life. So this is my excitement.
That's good. That's good. I'd like to ask more about that because one of the things that we're seeing is that disciple-making work, it just begins on the campus, but then it must continue beyond the campus. Specifically, it must continue in the local church.
Yeah.
So as a pastor, how would you like to see Campus Outreach working together with the church? We've talked about we need a seamless discipleship process that begins with a non-Christian coming to faith, perhaps on the campus, but then continuing beyond the campus in and through the church. How are you seeing maybe that process happening, or how would you like to see that process happen?
Yeah, in this part of the ministry, we need to be very careful. I think the best way to work is being very well connected.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting Campus Outreach to do the work of discipleship in the church, because Campus Outreach is going to take another way, another path. Campus Outreach is great in discipleship and sharing the gospel and discipleship on the campus.
Yes.
But the church has the responsibility to continue the discipleship.
Yes. Yes.
But Campus Outreach and the church needs to be connected.
Yes.
And that is what we are doing in San Pedro, Núcleo Church, and Campus Outreach.
Yes.
The connection of these three circles are very clear. What is the part of Campus Outreach in San Pedro Church as a mother church? What kind of communication? For example, Campus Outreach now is coming every other Sunday to my church to connect with the church family.
Good.
Not only the church family of Núcleo, but with the mother church too. And the mother church, ask the Campus Outreach guys to come forward and, ask one question or two questions, and they can speak about what they're doing. So every other Sunday. This is the kind of connection. So what are you doing there in the university, and how you church with Faith and Work Ministries can continue beyond the campus?
Yes.
So we need to be very careful not to ask the Campus Outreach guys to do the work of the church.
Amen. That's right.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Andrés, often here on the Staffcast, we'll ask a question that we frame it in the, if you were the king for a day, what would you do? And so we'll do that here. One of the things we've talked a lot about is the connection between church planting and campus ministry. So if you were king for a day with Latin America, how would you like to see the campus ministry and church planting work together? What could that connection be like, particularly as we think about new locations?
Okay, I will say in 2 lines. First, it's extremely important that the church with the one Campus Outreach is working has a church planter or a pastor with the right vision for church planting and the collaborating work with Campus Outreach.
Yes.
They should not compete.
That's right.
They should work together. So first thing is necessary to have the right church planter working with the right Campus Outreach coordinator.
It's good. Yes.
We need to be very careful. Not, Campus Outreach in the past tried to work here with 2 other churches and didn't work.
That's right.
But when we started together with Luis and Rodrigo, They were friends and they trust each other and they are doing their own job together.
Yes.
And now Rodrigo is working with these university students and professionals in the church, in Nuclear Church. And Luis is envisioning and is identifying new church planters.
That's great.
And they together are training them. They are training this potential. They have three. I don't know if you know this, but they have three potential church planters.
Wow.
In Nuclear.
Wow.
That's great.
And they are very related with Campus Outreach Ministry and the Nuclear Church. And they are identifying, equipping, mentoring, and preparing them for future church plants. So the work together, trusting work, is essential for church planting in the future. So as Campus Outreach is growing, the church is growing, and the church needs to be multiplied. And Campus Outreach needs to be multiplied at the same time. So our visions both together, multiply together. Yeah, we are thinking in different plans, for future church plants from San Pedro and from Núcleo, and how Campus Outreach can multiply to other campuses in the same city. So
good.
So this is in the way that San Pedro Church was planted with faith and work ministry strongly developed. So if we have had Campus Outreach since the beginning, we will be not a bigger because we didn't want to grow much, but a church, a better church in some ways. So, but the Lord knew better, and now this church plant and Campus Outreach are working perfectly as a good and multiplying together. I think the church will be ready first, but it's okay because the church needs to be ready to multiply first, and then having Campus Outreach very soon, like 6 months, a year later, starting a new campus also in relationship with the new churches. So, and another very important thing, that this is something that I'm pushing Rodrigo right now, is that Campus Outreach needs to be part of what we call gospel city ecosystem.
Right, yes.
We have church planting, but we have ministries to impact the city, and Campus Outreach need to be part of a bigger vision, not only Núcleo or San Pedro, but a whole city.
Right.
And the gospel city ecosystem is the bigger vision for the city. I will say that it's very important for Campus Outreach to be involved with the network of pastors and churches together, just to give resources. I mean, resources for young people in their churches to go together to plan other churches, So Campus Outreach is a city ministry, city impact ministry that needs to be connected not only with one church, but with the whole network of churches.
That's great.
So one church is the focus, 80%, but 20% with what is happening around the city also.
That's good. Well, Andres, with your vision and understanding across Latin America, what concerns would you have for campus outreach in Latin America, or what advice would you have for campus outreach in terms of ministry in Latin America as we go forward?
Well, one thing that I'm very encouraged by what is happening here, I experienced this and Rodrigo is experiencing this, but when Campus Outreach decided to have a Mexican being the coordinator, being the leader, that changes everything. It's very important for an American organization like Campus Outreach to trust the locals and to choose and identify the right leader.
Yes.
But when you choose Rodrigo, he is a local, he knows his context, he knows his way, and the companionship that you have been doing with him, coaching, mentoring, with him, but trusting him as national was a big deal.
Okay.
So normally agencies come and they have a missionary or an American being the coordinator, being the director. So I was the first coordinator for Mission to the World here in Northern Mexico, national. And I have under my supervision Americans and Mexicans together.
Great.
It was difficult. It was not easy,
No.
but because there are not many examples, but at the end worked very well. So I encourage you to keep doing that, trusting more nationals to become, coach them, train them to become the leaders of your people in every country. I think it's going to work better, not because know better or know more things, but because we are locals.
That's right. That's right.
But at the same time, we don't have a hierarchy on our team in Latin America. We are a team working together. So I encourage you to continue being a team where Americans come with a different perspective and enrich what is happening locally, because we need both for the best ministry situation.
Yes.
The best ministry road. If Rodrigo has only Mexicans, it's not going to be the same. If Rodrigo has only Americans, it's not going to be
That's
the
right.
same. So both being a team is a great way to develop ministries. Tim Keller says every culture has great stuff and has very bad stuff.
That's right.
So no culture is better than other.
That's right.
So, but cultures together become better.
That's right. And you mentioned there, Andres, that the Americans coming with a different perspective. Could you be even more explicit about what are some of the things that make it a different perspective that they bring? What's the helpful perspective they can bring?
Well, for example, the American culture is very focused. They are very focused in your mindset is being focused on what you are doing.
Yes.
And being very goal-oriented.
Yes.
Mexican or the Latino culture, we are more spread out, not very focused. We struggle being very focused. And we are not exactly very goal-oriented. So the American culture needs to be more relaxed.
Yes.
And the Mexican culture needs to be more organized. Sometimes we have retreats with Americans and Latinos, and the Latinos wanted, just to hang out and to talk, to eat. And the Americans wanted just to work, and all the agenda is only work.
Yes.
And it happened in city to city also. So they said, oh, Andres always is bringing the relational things, So we need to be balanced. But only Mexicans are not going to be balanced. We are going to waste a lot of time and maybe resources. And the Americans are going to potentialize too much, the resources. And
at the cost
That's
of
right.
relationships.
Exactly. So these kind of strengths and weaknesses together become a better product. This is one of things, but there are some other things that we can enrich each other when we are working together. Some people think that only nationals should work, and some people think that, in this case, Americans in charge will be better. Well, neither.
That's right.
I think something in the middle, more gospel-oriented, So both are good and are bad. So let us get together, to do it better.
That is so true, and we need your continued coaching in that. So please continue to speak in. We need that. That's great. Really, really great.
I was laughing during some of that sex because it sounded a lot like my household. My wife is Brazilian, and so we are very much on those two opposite sides that you were speaking of.
And I'm sorry, but the Brazilian culture is even bad for me. When I went to Brazil 2 weeks, and I say, well, it's time to start. Well, they start 1.5 hours later. I was, getting crazy, but no, even to fix struggles in our, every team has problems, every team. So personal and behavioral problems. So even to fix problems, we have different perspectives. You know,
Right.
one time in my office, I normally close the door because I want to read or something. Americans close the door too. But if I come to the office later than the Americans, I knock the door and I say, good morning, you know. But the Americans never do that. You know, the Americans, if the door is shut, the Americans think he doesn't want me to bother him.
Uh-huh.
But for me, for a Latino culture, is more important. It doesn't matter if I bother, but I want to say good morning,
That's
you
right.
know, because it's a way to be. You know, I care for you because good morning. And in her thinking was, they don't care for us because they interrupt us. So, so I came with my team together and I say, well, something bad is happening here. You know, we are getting mad because we do this and we do that. And then when the American explained it to us, what does that mean? If the door is closed, you don't bother him. But if the door is closed for a Latino, well, that doesn't mean that he doesn't want me to bother him. So, well, fix problems, communication, you know, all this stuff is good to have two different cultures. I encourage do that. And my final encouragement is don't ever lose your mission. I know some organizations expanded their mission too much, and even campus ministries. If you are a campus ministry, be a campus ministry because you are the expert that we need your expertise. But if you want to plant churches, well, do it in partnership with somebody else.
Right.
But you don't plant churches. You do campus ministry.
That's right.
We need you, and we need your professionalism. We need your expertise in that. But if you want to diversify your mission, be careful because you could fail in your own mission.
That's right.
Tim Keller also told me one day, if you don't focus on the mission of city to city and you want to do everything in your city, you are not going to do anything.
Good.
Just be there and partner with other organizations to do the rest because we are good in this and other organizations are good in what we are not good. So that will be my suggestion.
Andres, thank you so much for this time you've invested with us here. We'll kind of move toward wrapping up, but are there any topics we haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about? Any other things that you would like to share in our time as well?
We have been talking about how campus outreach helps church planting. But it would be great if we talk about the opposite, how church planting, how city to city helps campus outreach to do your job there. I think we have the background and we have in our mission, we have the impact enough maybe to suggest where to multiply campus outreach in different cities in Latin America, for example.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you allow us, we can suggest and say, okay, you are in Monterrey, Guadalajara, Lima, Belo Horizonte. So what if we start something in Santiago de Chile?
Yes. Yes.
So that will be something that we can help you. And you don't need to do the exploration from scratch.
That's right.
But maybe the exploration from, you know, something that we can suggest, you know. So that will be one thing. And the other thing is, let us be in your companionship. If you go to Santiago, we commit with you to work together. I can think in these two ways that we can help.
Thank you. Well, I know there will be other ways as well, and we need those too. So thank you so much.
Andres, we always end our conversations asking our guests to share a word of encouragement to the different campus outreach staff in the regions and the universities and campuses across the world. So we would love to invite you to close our time just by saying and sharing a word of encouragement based on your long ministry experience and your involvement with campus ministry even currently. And then, if you wouldn't mind, would you close our time by praying for the staff? And we would invite you, if you don't mind, do that in Spanish for us.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Well, I would like to encourage all of you to continue in doing what you are doing. What you are doing is transformative. It's very helpful for movements of the gospel in the cities. It's not just among the universities, but it's beyond that. The impact you are doing is beyond the universities. So you are going to be discouraged sometimes. You are going to have some failures sometimes. You are going to have some stumble blocks. But trust that the Lord is working on you, working on every one of the staff. You can be tired in the ministry, but not of the ministry. So continue doing that. You have been a great instrument for the transformation of the gospel in different cities. So don't be afraid of keep growing, and don't be afraid of failing. You don't worry, just keep going, because the Lord is using you very much. I encourage you to continue working on that. And the home staff, I really would like to encourage you to keep protecting your field teams. You are working with them. I know that you are coaching them, that you are caring for them. Keep doing that. This is extremely important. Finances stuff, even reports, financing reports, very boring things. Well, that is very helpful for your people in the field. So what you do, allow them what they are doing. Empower them, equip them what they are doing in the field. So we pray. Padre, gracias por la bendición de poder hablar de lo que tú estás haciendo en Campus Outreach. Señor, gracias por el staff en los Estados Unidos, el staff en cada uno de los equipos, pero gracias por el corazón que les has puesto, gracias por la mente que les has dado, la pasión que tienen. Y Señor, ayúdales a seguir caminando de la mano contigo para hacer el gran trabajo del gran evangelio en las grandes ciudades del mundo. Y gracias por el equipo en Latinoamérica. En el nombre de Cristo. Amén.
Thank you so much, Andrés.
Thank you.
Same to you. God bless you.
If you just listened to part 2 of our conversation with Andrés Garza before having heard part 1, just jump back one episode on your podcast service and enjoy the first half of our conversation. Make sure to follow the Campus Outreach Staffcast on your favorite podcasting service so you can catch each new episode. The Campus Outreach Staffcast is a production of Campus Outreach Serve. The vision of Campus Outreach is to glorify God by building labors on the campus for the lost world. To learn more, visit www.campusoutreach.org.